Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, we're going to be talking about dieting as I am joined by author and nutrition specialist, Michael Dorfman. Michael has been a vegetarian since 1976 and 2008. He decided to go on a whole plant-based diet, and it has made a significant difference in his life for the past 14 years, and he wants to talk about it and help others. So, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Curtis. Looking forward to this, an opportunity to talk a little bit about what I do.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to share it with your audience.
Absolutely. But before we do that, why don't you just start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I was born a long time ago, 1942, so I celebrated this January, my 80th birthday. And I was just checking last week that I was actually born 1 month after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. So that was significant. So anyway, so I was born into a family. My father was a butcher, and my brother was a butcher, and I had two uncles that were butchers. So I was born into a meat and dairy family, and that's what we ate at least once a day, meat and dairy. And I grew up to be a strong boy. I played high school football, and I had actually scholarships to 4 universities, which I took one, which was the University of Bridgeport. So I weighed about that. I was weighing over almost 200 pounds, and I was 5'10". I was pretty short. But I took the scholarship, and I quit pretty quickly because I saw how big these college ball players were. So I stopped playing football, and I got into, I graduated university. I went to 2 years of postgraduate in psychology, and I didn't get into plant-based foods. I had my first experience in 1967 when I did a raw fruit and vegetable diet, which I lost a lot of weight, felt pretty good, but I didn't care for it because I felt it was quite boring. I did that for about 1.5 years. And then, as you mentioned, I got into, I became a vegetarian in 1976. Couldn't give up the dairy though, and I got sick a couple of times every single year for like 32 years. I would not sick. I would get colds or a sore throat, fever, but I couldn't kick that. And my brother, who had been vegan, he was eating vegan foods for like 20 years by that time. He told me, well, why don't you give up dairy? And all I could think of was the pizza. And it was like, really, I just really didn't want to do it. He suggested I read this book called The China Study, which was by T. Colin Campbell, Dr. Campbell. And I read it, and that much had an impact on me and changed my life. So I decided to go for it. I gave up dairy, and that was like close to 14 years ago, and I never turned back since then. I'm really appreciate what it's done. I'm 80 years old, feel great, as good as I think I've ever felt.
Well, what inspired you to start educating others about whole food, vegan nutrition?
Well, that was really something interesting that happened because, as I said, when I found out that this diet was very good for my personal health, when I was who was living on the island. I've been living in Mexico almost 40 years. So a friend of ours, Beatrice, who was living in the island of Cozumel, which is on the East Coast. It's right off of Cancun. She had a heart attack, and she was taken to the hospital in a city close by, Merida, and she went through bypass surgery, came out okay, and then they sent her back home. A year later, she was suffering. She had pain in her arm, and the doctors told her to come back, and that she needed to have a stent put in because the vein that replaced the original artery was clogged up already. So the problem is that the vein was so narrow that they couldn't put the stent in, and unfortunately they told her that was it. They couldn't do anything for her, that she had to go back home, and that she shouldn't exercise too hard or climb stairs, even though her bedroom was on the second floor. What they didn't tell her was that she had 6 months to live, which she told my wife and her son, that she had about 6 months to live. So I got the wind of this, and I had already been on a vegan diet for about a year. I had read a lot of books on it, and I had read about there were doctors who were actually reversing and heart disease and helping people that were in terrible shape from heart disease. So I told Beatrice about it, and I suggested she read this book by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And I explained it to her that he was having great results with people with heart problems. So she decided to do that. She still didn't know at that time that the doctors had said she had 6 months to live. So she decided to go for a vegan diet. And instead of living the 6 months that the doctors predicted, she lived close to 8 years. And she died a few years ago. It wasn't from heart disease. But to me, that had a tremendous impact, because I had read about doctors that were having success. But here it was, I had my own personal experience of a friend who went through it and had this tremendous change from changing the foods she was eating. And I thought, it's like, to me, it's like, how come doctors don't, tell people about this possibility? How come this is not the default, move for doctors, with patients to say, we'll give this a try? But they don't do that. And this was puzzling for me until I realized, at a point that, doctors may not be well educated on nutrition. And I found out that to be the case, that there is, most universities, most medical schools give very little information. They don't give many courses on nutrition to doctors. And, that's the reason. But then I found out that it's not only heart disease, that there's other diseases, that chronic diseases that can be dealt with and even reversed with diet and lifestyle changes, like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, just different cholesterol, people who get cholesterol, cancer. It's amazing, but unfortunately doctors don't do this. So this is, tell the patients about this. And this is, for me, it was like, okay, I've got to do something about it. I really want to inform people. So I ended up writing the book, and I have my website, and I have Facebook pages, and I'm doing podcasts. I do talks locally where I live here in Mexico, and just want to get the information out and tell people that, there is another option, and especially during these times with, with the pandemic.
Well, we're definitely going to get into your website and your Facebook page and all that, but let's talk about where vegans get their protein from.
Okay, well, that's the favorite question that vegans get. Where do you get your protein from? And for me, it's I usually answer that in a couple of ways. The first way I say is, well, I get my protein from the same place that elephants, gorillas, racehorses, water buffaloes, hippopotamus, and even cows get their protein from, and that's from plants. And then that usually, opens their eyes a little bit. And then I talk about, there's so many athletes today that they eat a plant-based diet. Famous athletes, Tom Brady, for example, he's probably 90% protein. The Williams sisters, Serena and Venus Williams, they're plant-based. Kyrie Irving, there are many basketball players. Kyrie Irving's probably the most famous. Who else? Lionel Messi is maybe the greatest soccer player of all time. He's plant-based. The list goes on. I mean, in so many different sports, in rock climbing, in marathons, even the Formula. I forgot his name. The champion Formula One driver is a vegan. So it goes on, and more athletes are realizing, because what's happening with the athletes, it's not only that they're having some of their best performances on plant-based foods. Obviously they're getting their protein from that, but it's also they're feeling better. And in the long run, I think it's going to be very good for them, for their health, when they get these athletes, retire and they get older. And one of the what I do suggest is there's a very well known documentary called The Game Changers, which is on Netflix now. It's some of the great athletes are on that, and it just explains a lot about how athletes can depend on protein, and that's basically where they're getting their protein from. But what I'd like to mention also, I don't know if you. I wanted to talk about the fiber, which is, to me, that's my third answer. Is I try to answer the question, where do you get the protein from? But then I ask people, where do you get your fiber from? And that's one of the problems, because fiber is a very important food for people to eat, because it's very important for the unhealthy microbiome. And when you're on you're eating too much meat, or you're eating too much dairy, you're not getting enough fiber, because that's where the fiber comes from. They come from plants.
Well, you just answered my next question, why you feel that plant-based foods are better than meat and dairy. So why do you feel like whole food, plant-based diets are the best lifestyles?
Well, because throughout history, it just shows some of the best, most of the healthiest and longest living people on the planet are plant-based. And these are people who live in the rural areas in Japan and China, in parts of Africa. And also there's these 5 zones. It's called the blue zones. And Dan Buettner wrote the book on the blue zones. And there are 5 areas in the world where the healthiest and longest living people on the planet live. And he was sponsored by National Geographic. He used to work for National Geographic, and they gave him 2 years to find out, to just traverse the world and find out where the healthiest people live. And he did that, and he found out, well, one of the places is in Okinawa, Japan. Another place is in Loma Linda, California. That's in the United States, the Seventh-day Adventist. There's Sardinia in Italy. Where else? Nicoya in Costa Rica, and Icaria in Greece. So that's what they found out. And it's they have other lifestyle choices or practices that they do, but they're all basically plant-based, with occasionally they'll eat a piece of meat or some fish, but it's plant-based. And for me, I don't know. It's hard to say what it's done for me, but I feel as good as I've ever been eating plant-based foods. I was able to, all the problems I had when I was even a vegetarian of getting sick, once or twice a year, that's gone. I hardly ever get sick, at all. I guess that's, enough for me to say that I believe that's the best diet, the best nutrition to follow.
Where you also say that you believe that eating plant-based whole foods can stop the damage that we're inflicting on our planet. Why do you believe that?
Well, that's a very interesting subject because, we hear so much about climate change. That's like one of the top themes of our times is climate change, and they meet in Paris and other places, and it's to reduce the CO2 emissions. But they're not, what we need to be aware of is what we're doing to the planet. We're destroying the rivers and the streams, the oceans are getting polluted. What's happening, and one of the reasons this is happening is because of our need to consume a large amount of animal products. So what's happening, for example, is that the arable land, the land that's being used in the world, is mostly being used to plant crops for cattle, for chickens, for livestock to eat, so that we can eat the meat. But the problem is that the amount of land and water that's used for these crops, which are basically corn and soy, is many, many times more than the land required to plant fruits and vegetables. And then the ironic thing is we're planting for cattle instead of planting for human beings. If we planted for human beings, maybe so many people, well, hundreds of thousands of people are dying of starvation around the world. And the other thing we do is that in order to have this arable land, we're destroying the forests and the wetlands, because we have to clear that in order to have room to plant for the food. So we're destroying the forests. When we destroy the forests, we're causing species to go extinct. And the species either go extinct, or they go and look for other areas where they're not even able to adjust to. So that's part of the things that are happening. And then you're destroying the forests, which is the lungs of the earth. And we know what we're doing with the oceans, with the contamination of the oceans, but it's not only the contamination of the oceans, it's the overfishing of the oceans that's happening. We're just eliminating the fish because I don't know if you know that these large ships that are sent out to get the fish, they have these tremendous nets that scour the whole ocean bottom, and they pull up all these fish, and they throw away so much of the fish because they're not looking for all the fish that they're looking for specific types of fish, and the fish are dying, and the oceans are dying. There's another documentary called Seaspiracy, which is on Netflix also, which explains this. So we're destroying the rivers and the streams. We have the factory farms where we have all these animals put together, the cows, for example, in these very, very enclosed spaces, the pigs as well. And they're so enclosed that they don't have free space. A cow is supposed to be eating grass, and here they're eating the soy and the corn that's not really their main food. And then because they're in such closed situations, they have to be injected with antibiotics, and also in order to they don't get infected, and also they're with the hormones that help them grow more. And when people start eating these animals, they're also getting the hormones and the antibiotics into the cows. 85% of the antibiotics that are used in the United States alone are used for the cattle, so they don't get infected. So this is just a vicious cycle, and of how what we're doing to the planet, and the use of water for the land. It just so I think that what needs to happen is that people need to be aware of what's going on, because and the other thing I'm just remembering is what they use for the plants, the pesticides. The pesticides that are being used are, when they're used on the plants, we're eating the plants, and people are getting sick from that, and the pesticides and are going into the rivers and the streams. So this is a cycle that I believe needs to be broken.
Do you feel like chronic illnesses and weakening immune system is just part of aging, or you feel it's due to something else?
I think that I think doctors tell us that. I think that most people believe that you get older, and close to 2/3 of the people that die are dying from either heart disease or cancer. And I think that people accept that. They accept that, well, you have to go from, you have to die from something. And I think that, it's not true. I feel that for me, it's not true. And I believe that we need to become healthy. We can be healthy and have a strong immune system for a long, long time. Another thing we're told, for example, now with COVID, is that children have strong immune systems, but as you get older, the years pass, the immune system deteriorates. Why? I don't believe that has to be like that. If you take care of yourself, if you eat properly, if you follow the healthy lifestyle practices, there's no reason it'll deteriorate. You can take this all the way. Why should a person live only till 80 years? Why can't a person live to 100 years? But not only live, but really thrive. There's no reason that shouldn't happen. And I believe that that's true. And I know people, friends I have that also believe that the same way, that I think we're just accepting that, I was told that years ago. I had a problem with my back. Oh, it's your age. People are told, oh, it's your age. It's okay for your age. It's normal for your age. I don't believe that. And I don't think that people should believe that. I think that we can be healthy for a long time as we get older.
Well, tell the listeners about your Facebook page and your book and what they can expect when they check out your book and check out your Facebook page.
Okay, well, that's great. Book, it's called The Thriving Vegan. It was written 2 years ago, and it's how to discover the foods your body loves. And I go through so many different topics about health, about the need for supplements, the need. I talk about just many different topics about health, also about how it affects the climate, what I just spoke about, and also I'm writing another book now, which is I'm in the process of doing. Also, I have a Facebook page, which is called Go Whole Food Vegan. I do posts on that. And I also created a group here where I live in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. It's called the Vegan Wave. We have over 400 members, and we share and we have potlucks together, and we discuss, whole food, plant-based. And what I'm doing, I mentioned to you, is that I'm creating now an ebook. It's almost finished. It should be finished in the next 2 or 3 days. And I cover so many different topics from the COVID. It's actually called the Nutrition, Lifestyle, and COVID Connection. So I try to put together all of this and how it's so important. I believe it's so important for us to be healthy during the times of pandemics and the time of COVID. One of the ways I felt that we were let down is during this, the pandemic, is that we knew from the very beginning the comorbidities, the chronic diseases that were most associated with serious illness, serious symptoms from COVID. They were type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, for example. And I was waiting for 2 years for some country, some doctors from Health Institute to tell us how to become healthy. I mean, even we're in lockdowns for so long, now is the time that we could take care of our health. And if we do that, we can feel confident. We don't have to be afraid of getting sick. And that's why I felt that, we were let down. Anyway, that's some of the information that I can give you.
Well, go ahead and throw out your contact information, any websites. Okay. I know you got a Facebook group, but any other, websites or anything.
Okay, I'll just go through it slowly. My website is Michael, Michael, the letter J, that's like for Joel, Dorfman, that's DOR, F as in Frank, MAN.com. That's my website. And what I do is I have a lot of posts up there. I have over 50 posts up there. I have videos up there, and I keep putting up new ones. And the other thing, which I'm very proud of, it's a 45-page ebook, which I just mentioned. And I would like to send that out to any of the listeners who is interested in learning more about this. If they can send me their email, because I will send it out in approximately 3 days, free of charge. And my email is M Dorfman, DORFMAN, that at, the arroba was in Spanish, at gmail.com. And if you send me your email, your name and your email, I'll get working on it, and I'll send you out this ebook I just put together. So So anyway, I hope people are interested, and I really enjoyed being on this show.
So, ladies and gentlemen, mdorfman@gmail.com, michaeldorfman.com. Be sure to check him out, pick up that ebook. Have an open mind and at least look into what he has to say and see if you like it or not. Also, be sure to go ahead.
Yeah, Curtis, I just wanted to mention about it's M Dorfman, the Gmail, the email, M Dorfman, the number 7 at gmail.com. That's the email.
Okay, M Dorfman at 7. Oh, no problem. M Dorfman 7 at gmail.com to get that ebook. Please be sure to follow, rate, review, and share this episode to as many people as possible. Android listeners, go download the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast app from the Google Play Store, or you can download the Podbreed app and check it out there. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay, thank you, Curtis. It was wonderful.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.